more challenging because as a parent, you don't want to hurt your child's feelings. You don't want them to feel bad about themselves. And so it creates this weird, challenging dynamic. Some kids are hungry all the time. They ask for food all day long, even though you know they can't possibly be hungry. There's a difference between being physically hungry, like when you're in a growth spurt, versus when you think you're hungry. And many children can't discern the difference, especially if you have a child who may be larger in size. This whole challenge of being hungry all the time gets super complicated. You don't want to withhold food from your child or ignore their requests, but you also don't want to overfeed them if they're asking for extra food when they really don't need it. And you certainly don't want to make your child feel bad for asking for food. So what is a parent to do? In this video, I'm covering some tips for you, especially if you have a child who might be carrying extra body weight and who is also asking constantly for more food. In this video, I'm going to primarily help you set up a food system in your home that discourages your child from being extra hungry and helps you sort out whether it's physical hunger or head hunger. Because helping your larger child feel full and satisfied after they eat their meals and their snacks will go a long way to minimizing those requests for extra food. Before I begin, if this is a channel that you are enjoying or you enjoy this video, please make sure you like it, comment below, and follow the channel. It helps me get my message out to many more families. Okay, what does it mean when your child is always hungry? Well, the obvious answer is that they are physically hungry, that they aren't getting enough food to eat, particularly if they're in a growth spurt, and their appetite is telling them that they are hungry. That's kind of the most obvious answer. But in today's kids, unfortunately, a lot of them think they're hungry, but they're not physically hungry. So what does it mean when you're not physically hungry, but you're sensing this desire to eat? Well, it can be related to emotions, and that's where emotional eating can come into play. You have discomfort around the emotions that you're feeling. Maybe you're sad, maybe you've been left out with your friend group, or maybe you've been bullied or somebody's talking about you. Those can stir up emotions in children. And sometimes when children feel emotional, they turn to food to seek comfort and soothing. The other big reason why kids think they're hungry is boredom. So today's kids, when they don't have something to do, or they're not busy or at school or in a structured environment, when they're unstructured, sometimes they just are like, I got nothing to do, so I'm going to eat. So that feeling of boredom or lack of activity or not feeling like you have something to do can lead unfortunately, a lot of children to think that they're actually hungry when they're not. So why is this more challenging if you're a parent of a child who is growing up in a larger body or who is medically classified as overweight or obese? Well, feelings of guilt are a big one. So a lot of parents that I've worked with over the years obviously feel super guilty for the challenge that their child might be having with their body. That guilt can lead to appeasing a child with food to help them be happy. And what parent doesn't want their child to be happy? But this is why it gets complicated, because the feelings of guilt that your child might be struggling with a health condition or might be bullied because of their size, that can lead parents to assuaging their guilt by feeding their child. Also, parents who have children with larger bodies feel more pressure to feed their child right. Our society has sort of super narrow guidelines about what a healthy child should look like, what a healthy child should be eating, and that creates a lot of pressure for parents. Obviously, if your child is growing up in a larger body, there's more worry about whether your child is healthy or not, and whether you're doing everything you can to help your child be healthy. The catch is that some children are just naturally larger in size, and they can be perfectly healthy despite their size. And it's tricky because we don't want to make assumptions about children and their appearance on any sort of ground. So The fact that our society makes assumptions about children based on what they look like or what their size is makes it more difficult for parents to parent those children. We discussed this before. It's more challenging because as a parent, you don't want to hurt your child's feelings. You don't want them to feel bad about themselves. And so it creates this weird, challenging dynamic. Some parents have unresolved issues with food and eating. They might be struggling with food and eating themselves. And this can create more of a dynamic with their child, especially if that child is in a larger body. And last, sometimes food is just a hot button between parents and their kids. And when it is, it can make those food requests more loaded and they can be more triggering for the parent. All this to say, there's just a lot going on if you're a parent of a child with a larger body. And I just want to say that I am not here to place any blame or guilt on anybody. I'm here to support you. I recognize that this is more challenging. I've worked with families for many years dealing with this situation, and the guilt is a real thing. And so my hope for you is that some of this information will be empowering for you and will not place more guilt on you, because that is not my intention at all. It is to support you, and even more so to support your child. So here are 6 tips for setting up a food environment that is more supportive of the child who might be in a larger body and who is asking for food. Number 1, I want you to focus on filling nutrients. So the nutrients in food that we know are most satiating. So those are going to be protein, fiber, and fat. I've talked about protein foods on the channel before, but protein foods are going to be things like eggs, dairy products, all kinds of meat, fish, beans, tofu. Those are just some top of mind protein foods, but there are a lot of protein foods. Protein is the most satiating nutrient, which basically means when you eat it as part of a meal or a snack, you feel fuller earlier and longer. Very good for kids. Fiber. Fiber also, I've talked about this in the context of constipation, but fiber is also a very filling nutrient. You can find it in whole grain foods like whole grain bread or brown rice or whole wheat pasta. You can also find it in fruits and vegetables. When fiber is part of a meal or a snack, your child is naturally going to fill up faster, and that's going to hang on a little bit longer because fiber is part of a complex carbohydrate. It just simply means that it takes longer for your body to digest it. And thirdly, fat is a filling nutrient as well, especially when it's partnered with fiber and protein. When those 3 are all together in a meal, your child is going to feel full and satisfied, and this is going to help them stop being hungry all the time. Number 2, making your meals and snacks very predictable. And what I'm talking about is making sure the timing of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and any snacks that your child is having throughout the day, that it is set to an approximate regular time each day. That creates a very predictable situation for your child. So psychologically, your child knows what to expect, can feel comfortable, and know that they're going to get food at these specific times and intervals during the day. 3, close the kitchen between meals and snacks. This is not a literal thing. You don't have to put a door on your kitchen and lock it up. It's figurative. It means that when it's not time for a meal or it's not time for a snack, the kitchen is closed and food is not available. Again, when you have meals and snacks at predictable times and you close the kitchen in between those eating sessions, children learn to adapt and know that they're going to be eating at regular intervals during the day, and in between meals, there's no eating. This helps your child regulate their appetite, eat for hunger instead of boredom or emotions. Teach your child how to discern between physical hunger and boredom or emotional hunger, what I like to call head hunger. I think I'm hungry. So what is the easiest way to do this? So if your child comes to you in between meals and snacks and asks for more food, you can say, "It's not time for a snack right now. We just had lunch an hour ago." And your child might say, "But I'm hungry," and cry and whine. What you need to say is, "Well, if you're that hungry, would you eat an apple or a banana or a small piece of fruit?" Nothing exciting, but something contributory to their nutrition for the day. So something nutrient rich, preferably a vegetable, or a fruit. Now, if kids are really hungry, most kids will say, yes, I will eat that. And then you can say, oh, well, they must be in a growth spurt, or they didn't quite cover themselves at the meal before. But a lot of kids will say, I don't want that. I don't want an apple. I don't want carrot sticks. No, I want a granola bar. That's when you know. If your child is truly physically hungry, they will eat the apple or they will eat the carrot sticks. If they are bored or emotional or just out of habit have been grazers and eating every hour on the hour, they're going to want something more enticing. And that's where you can say, I'm sorry, bud, you're going to have to wait until snack time at 2:30. If you have questions about this, drop them below. Follow me as you're doing it and follow this channel. But drop the questions, I'll answer them. The last tip is try to identify the reasons why your child is asking for more food. Is it true hunger? Is it emotions? Are they bored? Are they sad? Are they, just unhappy? We can really help our kids by figuring this out. And when we do figure it out, we can help them structure more activity in their day. So food isn't their go-to whenever they feel these uncomfortable feelings or get themselves into a situation where they have nothing to do. So in the next video, which will come out next month, I'm going to talk about more things that you can say to your child that won't stigmatize, won't harm and hurt them, but will help them navigate their hunger, their fullness, and help them be better at self-regulating their food intake, especially if they're in a larger body and they seem to be hungry all the time. And I just want to end with a couple of thoughts for the families who are watching this who do have children in larger bodies. Be caring and considerate. Children who are growing up with a larger body are facing more stigma, more bias, more bullying, and more self-doubt than children who aren't growing up in larger bodies. They need more consideration, more caring, more acceptance, and more unconditional love from us. They do need more support, but we can do it in such a loving, kind way that they feel good about themselves and the body they are in. In the meantime, as parents, we can do our best also to set up food environment at home and our feeding practices and the way we interact with our children and how we help them build healthy lifestyle habits that will truly help them down the road. So I'll leave you with this. What questions do you have for me about having a child with a larger body who is asking for food all the time? If your child seems hungry all the time, pop your questions below and I'll answer them. Until next time, I'll see you then.